Well, William, we're standing by one of your pieces. I guess it says Untitled Spirits. Give me some background on how this happened.
Okay, it's one of the reasons it's untitled is because a lot of my work I do it intuitively, and I try not to think a whole lot about it, and basically put the pieces together subliminally, and hopefully a little bit from my unconscious, and yet I put a parenthetical thing in there because ultimately when I'm through, it tends to mean something to me. And this particular one spoke to me about spiritual matters, and that's really about as far as I like to go into the meaning, because I really like the viewer to interpret it their own way.
I see.
There are various aspects of it represent symbols to me. This cathedral would be an obvious one, religion and things like that. And the hands resembled to me, made me think of the hands of God. So that's about as far as I've thought it out. That's about as far as I want to think it out.
Right.
Because I enjoy the discovery. It's a big part of what I do is to try to get to a point where an image has that sense of mystery to it, and allows me to spend time with it and get to different levels with it. And so I really enjoy that. And so that's why I will start out lots of times just combining images, and sometimes desperate images and ones that don't normally fit together, and see what happens when they juxtapose them. And then as they come together, they end up meaning something to me as a general rule, or they don't, and it's not a successful piece, but most of the time the one I exhibit end up having some kind of a meaning for me.
Well, what was it that really let you know that you were an artist, that was going to be your career path?
You know, I've always been interested in expressing myself, and I also had a sensitive side, a side of me that noticed a lot of different things, and so I combined those two things. And I started out as a poet, and because I love words, and then I decided I was going to work in video, and I actually was trained in that, but I was going to do that as an art form. And then I discovered that it was way too expensive to experiment and get that same sense of discovery.
Right.
And so then I started messing around with paint, and I drifted toward photo montage and collage type kinds of things because I could get all these different images and combine them. And there was also a visceral effect too. Sometimes there would be lots of textures involved and things like that. So that's where a lot of it came from, just that sort of path that I went on.
Well, with that kind of variety in your background and history, what do you think you're going to go next?
I think ultimately, I think it may take a while, but I think ultimately I'm going to probably take all those things and mix them together. I think a lot of artists end up doing that who have a varied background, and even those who don't end up trying to mix video and all these various things. And I still shoot video, but just kind of, hobby type things. But I would really like to get all that media and kind of combine them the way collage is combined, and montage them that way. I'm not really sure how that could be displayed yet, though, or how it could be exhibited. So that's kind of where I'm going with that. We'll see what happens.
That's great. Be looking forward to that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.